Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Mark Janes, and welcome to the Hornet Spotlight. This will be the show for the month of January, and we're thrilled to have with us the latest inductee into the Beech Grove Hall of Fame. We're talking with 1981 graduate of Beech Grove High School, Tim White. And while certainly for race fans, the off-season is a long one, there is no such thing as an off-season for those that are involved in the sport. And Tim is just that, involved in the sport in a big way. With the National Hot Rod Association, he was named one of their few engineers at the corporate level. In May of 2011, this 1981 Beech Grove graduate was named Director of Engineering for the National Hot Rod Association. We welcome Tim to the show. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
So I know you didn't get a chance to look around campus much, but the first question I guess we have to ask is how much has Beech Grove changed since you were here in 1981?
The high school seemed like it changed quite a bit. The offices have moved. It seems smaller. Notice coming up the stairs, it seemed a little bit smaller, but still seemed like the old high school.
Well, now, I don't know how much you've had an opportunity to talk with Mr. Clevenger when he extended the invitation, talking about our Vice Principal, Randy Clevenger. We just completed a new science wing, something that I'm sure you wish you had access to when you were here in 1981. And while certainly over the past several years, it seems like English, mathematics, reading, those sorts of things have been at the forefront. How important would it have been to have a stronger based science curriculum for you as a high school student, seeing how, where you've gone now in terms of your career?
Right. It would have been really important, I believe. You can't get enough. You get into college, it's so much different in high school, even though, you were prepared, at least back in 81.
Sure.
It's changed a lot, and, it took some time and effort, to get through those classes in college, and I think it definitely would have helped.
Well, let's go through the resume a little bit. Of course, as we mentioned, you're with the NHRA now. Kind of give us the Reader's Digest condensed version, if you will, as to what took you from Beech Grove, the path you took to the NHRA now.
Let's see, when I got out of high school, I went to ITT, I got my associate's degree, finished that, and I moved to California. And there I joined Delphi Electronics. During that role, I was involved with guidance systems, in the development of guidance systems for some of the rockets, and they called it the upper stage guidance system, which was on the space shuttle when satellites were launched from the space shuttle. It was a guidance system that took it out into orbit.
Okay.
So that was really neat. And then I got into C-17 guidance systems for the C-17 planes. And then that role kind of came to an end, or the company started downsizing, so they transferred me back to Kokomo, Indiana. When I got back to Kokomo, Indiana, with Delphi Electronics, I started going to Purdue University in Kokomo, worked on my bachelor's degree, and then I stayed with them for about another 6 years, I guess, and got involved with Penske Racing. At that time, I went to work with Penske Racing. I was Elio Castroneves' engineer. Won an Indy with them, actually with Jill DeFair, and I started the year after he won his second in a row, won with Jill. Stayed with them for about 5 years, and then I went to work for Cummins Diesel down in Columbus, Indiana. Travel got to be a little bit too much with the race team, missed the kids, and so I stayed with them for about 5 years, and then I got the opportunity to go work for the NHRA. So
let's talk a little bit about that position with the NHRA. It was a newly created position, and the timing was right for you. You expressed the concerns about the time you spent away from the family, because it's now headquartered at Lucas Oil Raceway in Claremont, Indiana. So that had to be a bit of a factor.
Oh, yes, that was very much a factor. I know my wife said that I wasn't allowed to move her again. We'd move back to Indiana, which is home, of course. We're living in Greenwood now. The kids are older. I have 2 kids going to Purdue University now. I have a junior and a freshman. So we were able to stay home, be able to get back into the racing world, and enjoy it. So.
Well, we'll talk about this role and how important it is in terms of the location, because we mentioned before we started the show, no question, the city of Indianapolis, it's the motorsports capital of the world, but many think that pertains to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But certainly it has become, ground zero, if you will, for the NHRA because of all of the teams located within a proximity of Lucas Oil Raceway.
That's right. The majority of our top fuel, what we call our top fuel and funny car, and our pro stock motorcycle teams are located around the Brownsburg, Claremont area. As well as we have the racetrack, at Lucas Oil Raceway of Indianapolis, which is, we have our national event in September over Labor Day weekend, which is for us our Super Bowl of races. So it's really nice. You know, we are able to do that. We also are able to work with the group from IndyCar. I work with their director of engineering closely, so we share ideas, and we've also got, you know, the manufacturers and testing facilities and that available to us, you know, so we can work together with the racing community.
I would suppose that a benefit of late in terms of not necessarily a new technological advance, but a new safety initiative was, for lack of a better term, the roll cage that Schumacher Racing decided to employ. Now, whenever a team sets about the task of something that they want to develop, how big of an aid is it to be able to communicate with them in the off season before they go testing before the season started?
It's huge. It's huge. Right? And I assume you're referring to their canopy.
Absolutely,
the
canopy,
new
yeah.
canopy that they developed this
Sure.
year, or I guess it was introduced this year. It's really big. We did work with them on the off season last year to get it started. It was a long process, which was really neat. And that's the other thing that's really nice with being here in Indianapolis. We were able to work with Purdue University to do some of our aero studies on that canopy. And so being able to work with the teams and the manufacturer, it's manufactured by Aerodyne, which is also in Indianapolis. We were able to come together, do the study, approve it, work on safety aspects. We do have safety personnel that are at the track, so we could work together with them on the safety perspective of the canopy and get it through the whole process. And it was in competition then in late fall.
I've been fortunate enough since 1996 to be involved with the ISOT IndyCar Series, and it's interesting to me that in that answer you made reference to safety probably 5 or 6 times, and I think that speaks to no matter the form of motorsports, we're always looking for ways to move the sport forward technically, whatever the case may be, look for advancements and improvements, but at its very core, first and foremost, it must be safety driven for the driver.
That's right, and that's one of the main concerns that I have, and one of my main objectives is to make it safer. There's always been a lot involved with safety and new things coming about, but it's nice to have an engineering perspective now to look at things from a different perspective, I guess, a little bit more detailed. And we can, like I said before, we'll work with IndyCar and actually as well as NASCAR. So we all come together, and we just had a convention here in Indianapolis, the IMIS show,
Sure.
where the three of us, the 3 groups all came together, and we do discuss those types of things. We had the seminars around safety. So safety is really key, you know, I want to make sure all my drivers make it home at the end of the day.
Absolutely. As a technical director of sorts, do you find yourself at times, I know one of the technical directors for the IndyCar Series, Kevin Blanche, Kevin has a long and storied history as a crew chief and you know, working on pit road and working with teams as a chief mechanic and whatnot. But the biggest skill that I think Kevin has had to learn over the years is that of a referee and a mediator.
Right, and that's real difficult. I know Kevin fairly well as well. And it is tough because you're never going to make everyone happy. You know, it's like a referee on a baseball team.
Sure.
One side will be happy, the other won't. But it is part of the job, and you come to realize it's what it has to be done, and you know, in the name of safety and to be in fairness for the teams.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go back and revisit your IndyCar Series career with Team Penske, having an opportunity to be a part of a team that won a few pit stop competitions and also an Indianapolis 500. Having grown up here in Indianapolis, graduated from Beech Grove High School, what's it like winning the Indianapolis 500? Can you adequately or accurately put it into words?
I don't know if I can. It's amazing. You know, with Penske, the one thing I have to say is we put in long hours. It was grueling time. You know, we would be the first one in line when the gates open. We'd be the last one to leave. A lot of times jumping the fence to get out, and that's Roger. Everything had its place.
That's how he's won 15 of them.
Exactly.
Right.
And you respect that. So when all that comes together and you win, it's phenomenal. It's a great feeling, and it'll never be taken away from me, and I'll never forget it.
Well, and walking through the pit area, and there's no question Chip Ganassi's had a tremendous amount of success at open wheel racing. Michael Andretti, in his relatively short amount of time as an owner in various forms, both with Kim Green and Kevin Savory, and now as the owner of his own race team, has had success and won championships. But can you touch on just for a moment the X factor that I feel exists in Penske racing in comparison to the other teams. And it's just not just the success itself, but how they go about success. And it's everything from how the cars are crewed, how they're polished, how they look, to how the crew guys are dressed.
Right, right. And that's one thing with Roger's team, and I call it a team. We had 2 cars. Sometimes at Indy we had 3 cars, but we were always a team. We were very close. We'd share information. We would have dinners together. You know, we were together a lot. And Roger forced us never to separate as become a 2-car team. He always pulled us together. We were always one team. You always call it one team. And just being with Roger, he's probably one of the most amazing people I've ever worked with or for, and you know, that just being around him, the respect that he gets and deserves, and you know, it's an unbelievable experience, and you know, it's pretty easy to understand why he's won the number of events that he has.
Tim White's our guest, 1981 graduate of Beech Grove High School. This is the Hornet Spotlight, and he's our alumni that we're honoring for the month of January. So Roger filled as if he needed to fill holes on his resume. He filled a big one just about a month ago or so. You having been with Penske Racing once upon a time, how big was it for Roger to finally get that Sprint Cup title and get that monkey off his back?
I think it was unbelievable for him. You know, he's worked so hard for that, and him and Tim Cindric, you know, I know they've worked endless hours for that championship, and it was really great to see. I know he was really proud of it.
So now let's make a comparison if we can. You were with open wheel racing in the IndyCar series. Of course, you had some experience with open wheel racing, working with the folks at Delphi. Make the comparisons if you can. Or are we comparing football to basketball and baseball to football by making that comparison?
It's quite different.
Yeah.
You know, now it's speed. You know, it's going in a straight line, no left turns. Although we do road courses now in IndyCar, but it's much different. There's not a lot of comparison between the two.
I think some of the things that people aren't aware of, we were talking about it before we went on. I mean, everyone's familiar with how quickly teams want to make pit stops, and if a car is damaged during a race, for instance, when Will Power crashed out at California Speedway, the team busted their tail to get the car back to the garage and make the necessary repairs to get him back in the race and give him a chance to still win the championship. It's interesting to note, for those that aren't aware, that in the NHRA, every time a car goes out and makes a run, qualifying, whatever the case may be, it's a total teardown of the power plant, and from start to finish, completely tearing it down, completely putting it all back together. What, only 65 minutes?
65 minutes we give them, yes, that's right, which is pretty phenomenal. They literally take it all the way down and put it back together in 65 minutes.
Now, how heavily involved is the NHRA in that process while that teardown's occurring? Do they have, for instance, you know, up and down pit road, you have, you know, personnel at both IndyCar and Sprint Cup Series, and they're back in the garage area whenever there's a major repair being done to the car, or is there a quote-unquote tech inspection that picks up on those things once a run has been completed?
We mostly do our inspection after a run is done. There's not much time to interrupt the teams when they have the 65 minutes between runs. So most of our work is done, you know, as they come off the track. We'll do a lot of inspections, or we'll follow them back to their pits and do inspections. But we don't do, you know, a lot of detailed pre-race inspections like they do in IndyCar.
So now, how much do you travel with the NHRA?
This year we'll have 24 races. Out of those, I'll probably do about half. So, and then, you know, we have one at home, of course, and so
that's the big one, though.
Yeah, it's the big one. So I'll be gone probably 11, 12 races this year.
Now, earlier in the show, we talked a little bit about the relationship that you've developed with the headquarters now being at Lucas Oil Raceway. Not only, you know, Purdue University, but IUPUI. Talk about what it's been like to be able to partner with colleges here in Indiana.
Partnering with IUPI has been great. I'm also on their advisory board for their motorsports group. So I got a lot of input, you know, that I can get from their motorsports group as well. They do a lot of work with us. I actually have one of their interns working for me, which has been a wonderful asset for us as well as for him to get him. He's graduating this fall, or this spring, I guess, from the IUPUI motorsports group with a degree in motorsports, which is one of the first degrees of its kind in the United States. It's an actual bachelor's degree in motorsports with an emphasis on mechanical engineering. So he's been able to work with us. We've taken him to a couple races, which has been wonderful. And they do a lot of testing for us too, which is really nice. We've been able to do, you know, a lot of tensile testing and chemical testing, fuel testing, and that with them. So to have that ability to work with universities has been wonderful. It's an asset that, you know, it's really been helpful for us.
What would you suggest academically in terms of a foundation for a high school student to start on that path?
A lot of math. Yeah. Math is really, really important. So stick with it. I know it's tough. You can get through it. Math is important. Science is important. You know, of course, reading. You know, when you get into college, there's a lot of reading that's being done. So, yes.
I've often been asked, I've been with the IMS Radio Network since 1996, and I've often been asked, how did you get from Monrovia High School, working, you know, part-time covering high school sports for a small market station in Martinsville, Indiana, to turn 3 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? And it's a difficult thing to explain. So if I pose that question to you, how did you go from Beech Grove High School to where you are right now? Are you able to easily answer that question?
It's not real easy to answer, I guess. A lot of it was, you know, I have to say there was some luck involved, but there was also a lot of hard work. You know, I've worked really hard through my career and tried to achieve something and make the best of everything I could do. So I was always highly recommended, and but it was also knowing people in the right places didn't hurt at all. Yeah. Networking. One of my first bosses told me, you may not know everything, but someone around you will know what you need to know. So network, and I can't emphasize that enough. You know, networking is very important, but you also have to have the good grades and, you know, work hard.
Well, I know there are some impressive names in that main lobby out there in terms of the Hall of Fame nominees, and on behalf of the folks at Beech Grove, I want to present you with this Alumni Hall of Fame presented to Tim White, January of 2013, and we certainly want to congratulate you
very much
and wish you well. And
I appreciate it.
We both have a love of motorsports, certainly, and a love of Beech Grove, and I know the entire Beech Grove community is proud of you and what you have accomplished.
Thank you.
And we look back to having you back again someday.
Thank you.
That's Tim White. He's a 1981 graduate of Beech Grove High School. As we mentioned, this is the show for January. We want to give you the calendar of events coming up on January the 4th. It's the big boys-girls doubleheader. You better get here early because it's going to be packed. The place is always rocking. It's a boys-girls doubleheader against the Roncalli Rebels. The gals will tip off at first at 6. Then on the 5th, going to be a very busy place. The boys and girls swim team will have the all-conference meet. It starts at 9 a.m. Concession stand will be open with lots of great food. We hope you'll be here for that. Teachers come back on January the 7th, and then students return for the second semester on January the 8th. Also on the 8th, it's the always tough, one of the toughest in the state. It's the Marion County Tournament, and a tough task for Matt English and company. They'll welcome Greg Graham and the Warren Central Warriors for the high school basketball boys Marion County Tournament. That's on the 8th. On the 12th, it's the Conference Wrestling Championships. Happy to be hosting it here at Beech Grove High School. The 12th and the 13th, the P&J Stamp Express Show. We hope to stop by and take part in that. Our VIP breakfast is scheduled for the 25th. Then on the 26th, it's the always popular Beech Grove Swimming Invitational. Going to be a lot of schools here, a lot of outstanding athletes. Believe it or not, by the time we get to the end of January, the winter sports calendar will start to draw to a close, and we'll get ready for postseason tournaments. Up first, the boys wrestling tournament. The IHSAA wrestling sectionals get underway on the 26th, and senior night for the girls basketball team. They'll take on Lutheran in a conference game. That's on the 26th as well. And we invite you to always go to the Beech Grove High School website because you'll get any and all the information, keep track of your children's grades, whatever the case may be, contact their teachers. All of that can be found at the Beech Grove High School website. Our thanks to Wiley Kraft for production assistance for the show today. We also want to thank Beech Grove High School Assistant Principal Randy Clevenger for his assistance in putting this show together. This has been Hornet Highlights. I'm Mark James. We wish you a happy holiday. So long for now.